Good evening and welcome to Thai PBS World. Right now, tension between the two superpowers, the US and China, are heating up in many aspects like trade war, coronavirus, Hong Kong, and the one closer to the region is South China Sea, especially last week when the US Secretary of State told foreign ministers of ASEAN that don't let China walk over us. While China told the US that this is completely internal affairs of the region. And the Thai PBS World tonight, Kun Thep Chai Yong and I talked to Dr. Am Tangniran from Faculty of Law, Chulalongkorn University, to ask him what Thailand should be prepared to cope with tensions between the two superpowers.
Dr. Arms, it's obvious that the closer the U.S. Presidential election gets, the more tensions between the U.S. and China, that even at the ASEAN Foreign Minister Forum, the issue of rivalry between the two countries also came up. Do you expect anything more exciting leading up to the election in November?
Well, I think that we expect the tension to continue to rise. And as you might see from President Trump's tweets and also his speech about U.S.-China relationship, he actually said that if Joe Biden get elected president of the United States, then China will own our country or China will win. So it's very clear that he has raised the China issue as one of the key factors that he will use in trying to win in November.
And Dr. Am, to see things in perspective, who would be better for China between Biden and Trump? Who is the leader that they would prefer?
I think both will be very bad from China, both of them, but in different ways. I think that President Trump will be bad for China, especially in the short term, because his approach, I think that there's a lot of tensions and a lot of negative back and forth between the two countries, but especially in the short run. But I think that for Biden, he will has a more smooth and stable relationship. But in the long run, I think that he will have a more strategic plan to encircle and to limit China's influence. For example, if you look at the Trans-Pacific Partnership deal, that's one of the core strategies that President Obama initiated, and that's in seeking partnerships among many different powerful countries, Japan, even ASEAN countries, to help the U.S. In trying to limit China's influence.
Back on the Secretary of State Mike Pompeo's message to the ASEAN Foreign Minister last week that the ASEAN should stand up to China. Do you think that the U.S. really believes that the ASEAN has come to a point that it has to take a stand on China in that manner?
I think that the U.S. try to rebalance its relationship with China and try to engage more with its partners in Asia. And I think that if you look at this region, the Asian region, one of the key area of contestation is the South China Sea, which is just in our backyard and in ASEAN's backyard. So I think that, in thinking about containing China or engaging with China, ASEAN will be a key element in all this strategic contest between the US and China. And so from the US perspectives, I think it's very clear that they want ASEAN to be on the US side, and also to not only engage with Beijing's Belt and Road Initiative, but also favor the US Indo-Pacific strategy.
No, but judging from the comments from some of the ASEAN foreign ministers, it's quite obvious that ASEAN certainly don't want to be in a position to choose sides, right?
Of course, Kun Thep Chai, but it's becoming more difficult each day, not choosing side, because we hear one day from the Secretary of State Mike Pompeo that ASEAN needs to stand up to China, and then We hear another day from the foreign minister of China, ASEAN cannot let the US having a say in the region. So it's becoming a lot trickier, Kun Thepchai and Kun Natha, for ASEAN countries. And it's becoming like a diplomatic art for us to balance the relationship between these two giants.
And how do you evaluate the situation? Do you think ASEAN will be weakened its collective spirit because of South China Sea, and especially when we see the stance of the US and China?
Kunatha, I have this term that I call strategic integration. And what I mean is that even though ASEAN, compared to the European Union, we might not have as close the ties, economic, political ties, cultural ties among ASEAN nations, but I think that we need to have a closer strategic tie among ASEAN nations of what I call strategic integration, meaning that we have to have a common strategy in dealing with these two superpowers. We cannot let them divide us, separate and conquer. That would be the worst case scenario. What we should do is that we should have the conversation among ourselves and have a common position in balancing between these two superpowers. From the last ASEAN meeting in Thailand, we have this concept of ASEAN centrality. And I think this is a very important concept. ASEAN needs to be central, and we should not take side. And also we should mitigate finding other partners to also balance between China and the US. For example, Japan, India, Australia. We should mitigate to other regions and seek more partners, not just thinking about these two giants.
Why he called on ASEAN to stand up to China, Mike Pompeo also offered a carrot, saying that the U.S. has a long-lasting commitment to the region. So how much should we buy into that?
Well, I think that if we look from past history, since Obama's, he has this pivot to Asia strategy. But a lot of criticism on the U.S. strategy is that it's a lot of words, but not a lot of action, which is quite different from Beijing's Belt and Road, which has real economic interest for the ASEAN countries. But we need to wait and see, Kun Thepchai, because I recently heard also from the U.S. ambassador that the U.S. is really strongly thinking about re-engaging the ASEAN countries. And of course, with the carrots, as you said, that we will have to show real actions in order to persuade ASEAN countries.
Okay. It looks like that China has more carrots than the US these days.
but with the pandemic, it's tricky for China and for the US because right now every country is focused more on their domestic problems, on dealing with domestic crisis, health crisis, economic crisis. So with all this strategic contestation, we see a lot of words, but we don't really see a lot of actions, both from the US side and also from the China side. I think that because of the pandemic, both also reorient their financial investments back into their countries.
And that's all from Thai PBS World tonight. Thank you very much for watching.